Hello, magandang araw po sa kanila lahat. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. We're back for another episode of Teka Teka. And uli, ito po mga batikan na political analysts, mga political advisors. Nakita na po nito lahat. Alan Herman and Ronald Llamas. Mga sir, maraming salamat ulit.
Magandang araw, Robbie, at you're a population of one by popular demand.
100%.
Salamat, Robbie.
Gaya ng punto nyo, iba pa rin ang politika. Iba pa rin yung mga matagal ng players dyan, mga mekanismo, rules of the game that do not change. One of the rules that we always go by, or at least conventional thinking, is merong administrasyon, merong oposisyon, may mga partido at mga lalaking pangalan at maraming pera na nanga-backup sa mga ganyan. At nag-aalay-alay, nagtatagpo-tagpo ang mga interes ng mga dating magkalaban, dating magkakampi, nag-aaway na ngayon. So, ito parati nating tinatanong, pero parang mas maigting yung tanong ngayon sa eleksyon na to. Alan, Ronald, alam natin kung sinong administrasyon. Sino tinatawag nyo na oposisyon ngayon?
Well, una ay parang late na buo yung administration ruling coalition. Usually nabubuo yan, Robbie, Alan, pagkapanalo mo eh. Diba? Meron kang lakas ni FBR, meron kang yung PMP ni ERAP, diba? Meron
Kampi ni GMA.
Kampi, hindi, yung kay GMA, 5 eh. May ako nakakita ng presidente na miyembro na 5 political parties eh. Si GMA yun. Pati Liberal Party, miyembro siya, at saka yung bagong party niya, yung Kampi. So, tapos,
Rainbow Coalition unto herself.
Di ba? Tapos kay Pinoy, yung Liberal Party, yung kay Digong, yung PDP, biglang naging ruling party. Kahit nung nanalo siya, isa lang ang miyembro nun sa Kongreso. So, pero ang nakikita natin, may nabubuong ruling party at ruling administration immediately after winning. Ito medyo delayed eh. Nabuo after 2 years. No, after 2 years, itong ruling coalition. Kaya ngayon lang natin dinedefine kung sino ba talaga yung tawagan ni Robbie na opposition. At this point, yung opposition ay yung kalahati ng unit team. No? Yung PDP, sabihin ko sana PDP laban eh. Tilanggal na yung laban eh. PDP na lang eh. At saka yung hugpong ng pagbabago. Pero naubos ito eh. No? Nag-hemorrhage ito. Hindi ko na alam kung gaano karami. Lalo na sa Congress. Parang natira na lang yata ang congressman dyan, si Bebot Alvarez. Yung mga local officials naman, naubos din. Ang natira na lang yata dyan, nasuspindi pa. Si Mike Rama sa Cebu, sa Davao Norte, no? At yung sa Bohol. So mismo yung mga natira, nasuspindi pa o natanggal. Kaya medyo naubos. No? Yung lumalabas ngayon na main opposition, yung mga Duterte. At even in the Senate, hindi ganun kalinaw gaano ba sila ka-competitive. Diba? Dahil si Bato at si Bongo nagsisimula ng bumaba. At yung sinabi ni Sara na 3 Duterte na tatakbo daw for the Senate, mukhang ni isa walang tatakbo. Kaya ang bagong Robin Hood Padilla ay si Philip Salvador. Na duda ako kung mare-repeat yung ginawa ni Robin Hood Padilla. So mismo yung ngayon, main opposition na galing sa unit team ay hindi ganun kalakas. No? At yung mga iba, katulad nung Pinklawan ni Checky Bam, ay ngayon ay Kibam na lang. No? Kibam na lang. Nawala na si
di ba Checky Bamas yan? Sen, di ba Checky Bamas?
No? Tapos yung naman, yung Makabayan Black na 11, alam naman natin na malayo sa survey yan. Kasama ko yan sa margin of error. Yung karamihan diyan, no? Kasama sa margin of error. No? At ganoon din yung partido ng lakas ng masa. Yung kila Luke Espiritu at kila Leon de Guzman, no? Medyo mataas ng konti sa margin of error, no? Kaya hindi ganun kalalakas yung opposition, no? Yung opposition. Lalo na during the midterm. Dahil ito yung pinaka-powerful, yung ruling administration at yung ruling coalition nakakabuo pa lang. Pero ang tema dito, Robbie, huling point lang, yung kasama sa ruling coalition ay hindi mo sigurado kung sila nga ba talaga ay loyal sa administration. Lalo na yung nasyonalista. Dahil yan ay very critical kay BBM during this past 2 years. Sinuportahan nga ng mga yan si Kibuloy eh. Diba si Kibuloy na gustong pabagsakin yung presidente. So yung mga sumama sa ruling coalition, hindi ganun kasigurado in terms of loyalty. Dahil ito organic Marcos loyalist eh. Yung organic Marcos loyalist, either patay na o matatanda na, or ang natira si Gadon. No? Si Gadon natira. So wala ka rin talagang organic. Wala ka rin talagang organic ruling coalition, no?
Yan to your point, sa nasyonalista, parating may sumusulpot dyan na meron din mga intention sa 2028. Diba? So, hindi mo rin basta-bastang iti-take for granted na kung sinong kakampanyan ngayon, yun ang kakampihan nila sa 2028. Pero Alan, I wanna get to, gaya na sinabi ni Ronald, the main opposition. No? Hindi ko alam kung yun talaga ang permanent designation ni Ronald dun sa grupong yun. But we all know who that refers to, di ba? The Dutertes and so on. And sinabi niya, maraming opposition, kasama ang main opposition, pero lahat sila separately mahihina. At wala ka naman talagang guarantee na magsasanib lahat yung mga yan. So I just want to talk about the main opposition first. Mahihina raw, pero sa totoo lang naman yung pangalan ng Duterte walang tinag.
Yeah, okay. Ang nangyari kasi dito, to Sen Ronald's point, no, very loose yan dahil this is a very transactional flimsy foundation to form an alliance. Ano lang to, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So yung mga dating, lahat ng kalaban ng Duterte just banded together. Even if ideologically wala naman silang iisang pananaw o iisang paniniwala, it's just a knee-jerk and probably heart-spill reaction na, inuupakan na yung mga Duterte. Isama na tayo, let's jump in. But maganda yung sinabi mo, Robbie, because they've thrown everything in the kitchen sink at Vice President Inday Sara Duterte and the generals of the Duterte brand. Lahat ng lahat ng kapo, hindi lang yung Godfather ang tinitira. Lahat ng kapo, El Tuti, ay iniisa-isa. Sina Marcoleta, niyari, si Harry Roque, niyari, VP herself, niyayari, sa Davao, niyayari sila, Kibuloy, niyari. And yet, the latest survey, although the decline is steep, labang pa rin si VP Inday. So pag yan hindi pa rin nila mababa, wow, they will have a severe problem in their hands come 2028 and even the lead up to 2028. Diba? What you don't kill, you make stronger.
Diba nga sabi nila, and I think I've heard this from you also, yung kasabihan, kung hahabulin mo if you're going after the king, you'd better make sure na kaya mong tuluyan yan.
Pero at the same time, Robbie, Alan, no, it's still 3 years and 8 months para sa presidential election. At ang nakita natin, itong more than 2 years na ito ay dramatic yung pagbaba ni Sara from a high of 90% to a low of 60-50%. Ibig sabihin yung movement of numbers niya pababa. At kanya lahat ng surveys. At strategically, bumaba siya significantly sa Class D, which is the biggest class sa mga voters, no? At saka mismo doon sa kanyang dating bailiwick, yung Visayas, no? So yan ay significant. Dahil sa Mindanao kasi, you can no longer go high dahil naabot mo na yung limits So hindi ka na pwedeng tumabo ron. Ang problema mo, hindi ka makatabo doon sa bailiwick mo, tapos yung mga boat corridors, yung rich boat corridors, ay bumababa ka. So, ako ay mga strategies at saka campaign managers niya, kakabahan ako dahil sa movement of numbers. Lalo na, meron ka pang 3 years and 8 months. At pangalawa, may tumataas Tulpo. Yung pinag-usapan natin kanina influencer. No? In 2 surveys, mas mataas na si Tulpo kesa kay Sara. In other surveys, kahit mataas pa si Sara, dramatically siyang bumaba. Katulad halimbawa sa SWS, sa Okta, no, sa Oculum, no, sa etc. No? Yung paborito kong survey, wala silang ganoon yung presidential preference pa. No, ito lang yung mga meron Ito yung mga meron. Kaya ito yung binabanggit ko. Kaya iniintay ko yung paborito ko, yung Pulse Asia, kung maglalabas din ng ganyan. No? Yung presidential preference. Pero I'm sure maglalabas din yan later. Later. No? So, kung kompleto na yun, kung kompleto na yan, doon mo naman i-compare na bumaba pa si Sara, pero may ibang tumataas. Hindi pa nagpapakilala yan, na Tulfos.
May a question occurred to me, di ba? Kasi I started just by asking, sino bang opposition sa darating na election? And I guess it was inevitable that we're talking about 2028, 2025, di ba?
Yeah.
So when we answer that, when we try to answer, sino nga ba ang opposition? Is that really the proper framing that actually, kung pag-uusapan natin kung sino ang tunay na opposition, we are actually in fact talking about 2028. It's not 2025 that we're talking about.
Well, both. It's 2025 and 2028. Dahil 2025, kailangan magpakitang gilas ng admin laban sa main opposition. So it's reds, yellows, pinks, versus the greens. It's all colors versus the greens now. Kailangan nilang ibaba yung green, which is the main opposition, the Duterte. And that's just the runway going to 2028. So we're talking about both actually.
Siyempre, Robbie, yung ating definition kasi ng administration or opposition in the past as well as in the present is more political and ideological. Ibig sabihin, meron kang pagkakaiba, di ba? Yung dating unit team ay nagsisimula na magkaroon ng political, sasabihin ko sana ideological pero wala naman silang ideology Pero nagkakaroon sila ng political difference, especially on foreign policy, especially on human rights, no? Etc. No? So, pero yung talagang opposition from my vantage point ay yung mga weaker political coalitions. Yung Pinklawan, kahit dalawa lang yan, yung Makabayan Black, kahit kasama ko yan sa margin of error, no? At saka yung partido ng lakas ng masa. Yan yung mga medyo ideologically, politically, pwede mo sabihin na opposition. Ang sinasabi ko na main opposition dahil in terms of surveys at saka political base, baka sila pa yung distant second sa administration, no? And all the others ay mas malalayo, no? Mas malalayo. Although not necessarily in political influence, diba? Halimbawa, si Risa, kahit nag-iisa siyang senador, yung influence niya goes beyond yung kanyang numbers, diba? Yung siya nagsimula nung Alice Go, Kibuloy, etc. Ganun din yung mga bagong actors sa Quad na karamihan ay nasa ruling administration. So yung kanilang political importance ay lumalaki ngayon. Partly dahil nga sa topic natin na social media dun sa isang episode. No? Kaya yun yung, it's more yung muscle. Yung political muscle, yung Duterte ang second, bagamat distant second, at humihina. Halimbawa, si Bato ay nagna-number 12 ngayon sa survey. Diba? Si Even Bongo, nandun na sa last 6. Dati nasa first 6. So even this main opposition ay humihina like Sara. Kaya yung mga Duterte, hindi ako nagulat na hindi na nagpatakbo sa Senate. Dahil even si Baste, who is Duterte 2.0, ay labas sa 12. No? Labas sa 12. At meron silang existential battle dun sa kanilang bailiwick sa Davao. So yun lang yung...
babalikan na. Sige. Itabi muna natin yan dahil babalikan natin yung Duterte. They are, of course, a force and a story on their own. Alan, I wanted to turn to you. So we've been talking about the quote-unquote, the main opposition. That's the Dutertes. We're talking about the everybody else. The opposition. Na ika nga ni Ronald, pwedeng margin of error itong mga to. Pero pag ipagsama-sama mo itong mga to, kung magkakasama-sama itong mga to, hindi insignificant ang impluensya ng mga yan. So I wanted to ask about the others. And talking about, mahalaga maintindihan, the enemy of my enemy. Di ba? So as far as the other oppositionists are concerned, the others are concerned, when we talk about the enemy of my enemy and therefore kanino sila maaaring sumanib or kung sinong pwede na nilang lunukin at least until the elections, is that clear? That the enemy of my enemy, as far as everybody is concerned, it's safer to assume that mas kikiling yon na Duterte ang kalaban ng lahat instead of the Marcoses. I also ask this in the context of recent developments, even not even in politics, but in government. The Marcos administration has been reaching out across political lines. You look at the Department of Education right now, the latest appointments, a lot of the people there are sympathizers of the Liberal Party, of former Vice President Leni Robredo. Parang merong feel-good movement na, uy, baka ito tunay na unity, and so on. So, yun ang tanong ko. When we talk about, the enemy of my enemy, we're talking about the Dutertes, right?
Okay, we are talking about the Dutertes only because in recent political history, I don't think, maybe Senator Ronald can correct me because he's been there since the administration of Rizal, the joke of since Kawit Cavite nandiyan na yun si Sen Ronald Llamas. But we've never encountered an administration that was as, I would say, not even petty, maybe petty is such a strong word, but as determined to crush their enemies in every way, shape, and form as the Dutertes were. And this went on for 6 years. Dinurog nila ng gusto lahat ng kalaban nila. They went after their enemies in every avenue, through every corridor, through every possible way, pati media, pinasara ang ABS-CBN. So there was that anchor of hatred towards them. So anybody that was mighty enough to stand up to this, bully, dinikita na. And that's a powerful motivator that cannot be understated. Kaya nakikita mo the likes of Senator Sonny Trillanes, staunch Leni supporter before, naging medyo he's kind of not as critical of the Marcos administration anymore. Even Senator Laila, di ba, pinalaya, she was very happy, nagpasalamat pa. You have those examples. Kasi nga, masyadong inapi talaga lahat ng kalaban ng Duterte noong panahon nila. At ngayon ang kanilang moment of paghihiganti. And that is, again, a very, very powerful psychological and emotional motivator.
But it's also not just the political forces. I remember having this conversation with some groups, hindi ko na lang babanggitin, but they asked about yung pinag-usapan natin kanina, the popularity of the Duterte, specifically of Vice President Sara Duterte. And my question to them and my question to you was, as you said, popularity doesn't always translate to votes, but the Dutertes have proven that they have a base not just in terms of popularity, but in fact in terms of votes. But my question is, you also have to make a distinction between popularity or even voters and constituency. And my theory and my question is, the Dutertes also stand to be discredited in the eyes of some major constituencies. In this particular case, ang example ko is the military. Diba? The military, when they voted, when they were open to Duterte in the last elections, nadala sila sa magje-jet ski raw yung presidente sa 'di ba? Sa islands, 'di ba? And mauna tayo. Then 6 years happened and they realized na nakakalalaki na yung China niya, nagmumukha kami tanga dito, 'di ba? And they were disenchanted with Duterte. So you have the popularity of the president, of the Duterte name on the one hand. You have you have a lot of political forces lining up against them as the enemy of their enemy. And then now they also have this thing that they cannot actually necessarily count on their old constituencies. In this case, in particular, the military. I imagine a lot of military people, now that the Marcos administration has swung its foreign policy back to the United States, you have a military that, to borrow a line from Kamala Harris, who are saying that we're not going back.
Mahalagang element yung sinabi mo, Robbie, dahil ito yung first time in so many decades na yung ating domestic politics, yung domestic dynamics natin sa politika ay nangyayari in the shadow of the great game, in the shadow of the superpower game. Kaya kahit papano, siya ay makaka-impluensya sa dynamics na yan. Halimbawa, nabanggit mo yung military. Dahil yung military cannot be pro-China. Yun yung isang isang mahalagang elemento. At yung military ay siyempre kahit quantitatively maliit sila in terms of voting base, qualitatively ay merong mas malaki silang influence, no? Mas malaki silang influence sa ating politika, no? Ikalawa ay ito hindi pa natin na monitor talaga, ay itong mga superpowers ba ay bubuhos dito sa election na ito na appetizer for the main meal sa 2028, no? Yan na yung dahil yung ating location ay nasa gitna nitong superpower game na ito, superpower battle. Yung ating importance both sa dalawang natitirang superpowers ay napakalaki. Kaya hindi ako magugulat kung bubuhusan nila yung kanilang mga sinusuportahan dito in the midterms, but more significantly para sa 2028, no? At diyan very crucial yung role ng military, lalo na yung main opposition may mga destabilization plots, no? Na hindi naman nila tinatago, di ba? Hindi nila tinatago. So between now and 2028, yan bang mga destabilization plots na yan ay magiging significant, no? So maraming elements, hindi lang eleksyon eh. Hindi lang eleksyon, sabi nga ni Alan kanina, no? Pati yung kitchen sink binato mo na eh. At dahil existential yung iyong threat sa iyo, ICC, Quad, no? Impeachment. Hindi yan maliliit na threat ha. Yung very survival mo not only as a political dynasty, kung hindi physically dito sa bansang ito, kung kukunin ka ng ICC, ay at stake. Kaya nakasandal sila literally sa pader at lahat gagawin nila, no? Para lang to get back with the incumbent government. In so many words. Kaya hindi fiction yung sinabi ni Duterte last January 28 rally. From uprising to insurrection to mutiny to resignation to secession to even a hint of assassination. Dahil yun talaga yung pwede nilang gawin. Dahil nga existential yung kanilang threat, yung threat sa kanila.
Ako naman I'll look at it also from a branding perspective. Strong din yung nagiging branding against the Dutertes ngayon kasi tinatawag silang team traidor. At ang Pilipino, ayaw na ayaw niyan. Pag sinabi mong traidor, backstabber, binenta yung bansa. Plus in the Quadcom, they are hyping up all of these abuses by these Chinese foreign national spies na na-infiltrate na gobyerno natin, inaapi na tayo mga Pilipino para tayong walang kwenta, pinagloloko tayo sa sarili nating bansa. At sinong gumawa niyan? Ang mga traidor na mga Duterte. So, yun yung brand na kinakabit sa kanila.
Sige, final question na lang. And like I said, as I promise, gusto ko talagang balikan yun. Sinabi ni Ronald, no, nakasandal sa pader ngayon ng mga Duterte. Kung matuloy, may 2 araw pa naman tayo para mag-file for senator at saka for candidacy yung mga tao. Pero kung matuloy, na after all of those threats by Sara Duterte, after all of that posturing, wala rin palang tatakbo for the Senate na Duterte. And they all retreat back to almost a rearguard action, trying to take care of their bailiwick, their front, their hometown, and so on. Saan lulugar ang mga Duterte ngayon? Because it's, among other things, you're also seeing na, I think di naman kaila sa mga tao, latest optics ng matanda ni former President Duterte, medyo mahina rin yung kalalagayan niya, 'di ba? It didn't look good seeing him wobbly on stage, didn't look good seeing him in that state na mukhang hindi man lang nakapagsuklay in their bedroom, and so on. I mean, saan lulugar ngayon ang mga Duterte sa tingin nyo? If you are advising them as political clients, on the one hand, we need to protect our name, we need to protect our position at the national level kasi kung hindi, baka impeachment ang kaharap natin. On the other hand, mismong tindahan natin, baka mawala. Saan sila lulugar ngayon?
Well, 2, Rabi, no? Una, maintain their bailiwick sa Davao. Major yung pagkahina nila nung nawala si Kibuloy. So, kinakailangan talaga nilang i-secure yung kanilang bailiwick, yung Davao. No? Pero ikalawa, mas mahalaga, kailangan mag-survive si Sara. No? Kung mapigilan ng impeachment or kung may impeach siya, mapigilan yung conviction. No? At kung masurvive nila yan, after the midterms, at si Sara ay number 1 or even number 2, yung mga umalis sa kanila na dati nilang allies may slowly return, no? May slowly return, no, sa kanila. Kaya yun yung kanilang habol. At kung bubuhos yung support ng China, kahit wala na silang confidential at saka intelligence fund at saka DepEd, pwedeng ma-op pa niya yun, no? Pwedeng magamit nila yon pangtapat do sa resources ng gobyerno. Kung talagang bubuhusan sila ng China. Now, of course, de-deny nila. So, sa akin, yun yung dalawa na gusto nila mangyari. Secure their bailiwick, which they can easily do, no? Pero, yung survival ni Sara, ang kanilang main battle. Pag na-impeach si Sara, kahit barangay councilor, hindi na siya makakatakbo. Ibig sabihin, pag na-impeach siya, kahit merong kaunting sympathy, bali wala yung sympathy na yon. Dahil walang pupuntahan yung sympathy. Kaya, yun yung kanilang, doon sila nakafocus ngayon.
Ako, tama si Sen Ronald, the choices are binary, no? Well, actually, for them, ideally, they have to do both. Secure nila yung bailiwick nila, yung, protect the kingdom, protect the castle, expand the kingdom lang yan, di ba? They have to do both in an ideal situation. I don't think they have the manpower, resources, and political capital to do it at this point. So if I were advising the Dutertes, I would say, abandon ship Davao, focus on the Senate. Throw all your time, energy, resources on the Senate. Make sure your allies are in the Senate, if not yourselves.
Is that ultimately how we frame it, itong kung ano ang nakasalalay sa darating na eleksyon, particularly sa Senado? When we look at who's going to win, it's not just about the individuals who are topping the surveys. Ultimately, does it go to the question of will an impeachment succeed? Yan ba ang pinakamahalaga sa bilangan nyo?
Well, depende kung kailan mangyayari yung impeachment eh. Kung mangyayari siya before the midterm elections, no? So, quid pro quo. Hihingi yung mga separate kingdoms sa Senate for a conviction. What's in it for them, no? Yung mga re-electionists, mas mahina yan dahil gusto nila the best of both worlds. Ma-harness nila yung pagiging nasa administration para at the same time, yung 20% ng mga Duterte as a voting bloc ay makuha nila para ma-secure yung kanilang winning margin. So yung mga re-electionists, mas lalaro yan. Pero yung mga nasa Senate na hindi re-electionists, mag-negotiate ang term yan. No? Hindi ko sinasabi na kukuha sila ng mas maraming flood control projects or kukuha sila ng maraming tupad o AICs, no? Or kukuha sila ng unprogrammed funds. Wala akong sinasabing ganun, ha? Pero magne-negotiate.
Wala nagsasabi na.
Negotiate terms yan. Ngayon, yung re-electionist, yan ang babalanse. Pag nagkamali sila, ma-off-balance sila. Paano? Halimbawa, pag nakita sila na nakadikit doon sa kabila, ilalaglag sila dito. Diba? Ilalaglag sila rito. So, maingat yan. Pero yan yung mga magne-negotiate. Pero the impeachment will define, no, itong next few months before the midterms at yung next year after the midterms. Ang problema sa after the midterms, may mga bagong element. At yung mga sumama sa administration may no longer be that pro-administration afterwards. Tatansyahin na nila sino ba yung may chance sa 2028.
Perfectly said by Senator Ronald. No? So, to the Pinoy bystanders, si Juan de la Cruz, dapat ma-realize ng mga botante na gagawin ng lahat ng posible, pati imposible, lahat gagawin na ng admin ngayon upang manalo ang kanilang Senate bets para sa dalawang rason. Dahil, as they always say, di ba, it's a cliche that midterm elections are a referendum on the current admin. So for optics, gagawin nila na manalo ang kanilang mga senador to show na hindi kami lame duck. Di ba? Kasi no lame duckery will happen after the midterm elections dahil yung mga senador namin nanalo pa rin. And the second reason is to hold it as a sword of Damocles. Yan, favorite ni Sen Ronald Llamas yan. To hold it as a sword of Damocles over the heads of their enemies. Pag umabot sa punto na i-impeach ka namin, we've got the numbers, wala kang laban, yari ka.
Okay, maraming salamat po. Now we have, more reason, not that we can escape it, to be watching and asking the questions heading into the elections. Maraming salamat ulit sa ating mga bisita, si Alan Herman at si Ronald Llamas. At saka, meron kami part 1 ng usapan namin. Baka hindi nyo napapansin. Kung nanonood kayo ngayon, meron kami part 1, hanapin nyo tungkol na sa mga influencers na pumasok sa politika. Muli, ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kung nagugustuhan nyo po kung paano kami nagkukwentuhan dito, sundan nyo rin po ang Teka Teka at saka ang Puma Podcast. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Maraming salamat po.